All right, welcome. As always, I'm super appreciative of your time and energy. I always think about like we take a vow in Zen to save all beings, right? And a big chunk of what that means is that we work on ourselves. Being interconnected to all beings, working on ourselves helps others and makes us more able to help others. And so every time folks show up, it means we're helping others, which I don't know, I find that a little bit inspiring. So I'm going to share a koan with you tonight, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit. So this comes from The Gateless Gate, case 26. The monks gathered in the hall to hear great Hogan of Serio give teisho. Teisho means like a talk. Before the midday meal. Hogan pointed to the bamboo blinds. At this, two monks went to the blinds and rolled them up alike. Hogan said, "One has it, the other does not." Well, what is up with that? Right, it's kind of cool. We actually have two blinds here, right? So imagine, right, that I tell you guys, hey, can y'all pull those blinds up for me? And then, while you're there doing it, I'm like, one has it, one doesn't. Understanding that Hogan is at that point in his life, he's lived in China in about the 900s, second half of the 10th century. So, he's the teacher, like he's the abbot. So if he says you're doing a good job, that means you're being approved of. If he says you don't have it, is it he's not approving of you? Or is that even what's going on here? What's going on here? So, when I think about this koan, it's sort of, in a weird way, it takes me back to my childhood because, I grew up in what I would think of as a high conflict home, and so I have a lot of memories of my parents fighting, right? They'd argue with each other a lot. And I remember at various stages in my journey through childhood taking different sides, right? That sometimes I would listen to my parents, because, they're yelling, so anywhere you are in the house, you can hear it. One of my earliest memories is hearing my parents yelling at each other. And so sometimes I would hear the stuff my dad was saying and the stuff my mom was saying, and I'd be like, Dad's a jerk and Mom is right. And I would have a reason in my mind why I knew that Mom was right and my dad was wrong. Then other times I felt like that my dad was being super reasonable and I would identify with him and I would think that my mom was being terrible. Right? So I'm choosing a side. Right? Telling a story, I'm choosing a side. One has it, one doesn't. So we can dial that in, right? And we can say, I have it, right? Or I don't have it, right? I don't have it. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're like, I do not have it today, right? Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're like, today's the day that I take over the world. This is my day. And then what happens? Right? That comes to fruition or it does not. We wake up with expectations and we go into our life, and then on the way to work we get a flat tire. And we're like, thought today was my day, but not so much. One of the things that, both as a counselor, as a boss, as a Zen teacher, one thing I hear a lot is something along the lines of, every time I think my life is going good, it isn't. Some new thing happens. Right? I'm waiting for the suffering to end. I'm waiting for the exemption where there's no new issue that interrupts. Right? I have it. Now I have it. Right? So what is Hogan aiming at here? By putting those two things together, right? If we assume that, these koans that come down to us, they're asking us to leap free of the intellect. They're asking us to leap free of duality. So what's up with that? What's up with that stuff? Comes down to us, and here we are. I thought I had it, but I didn't. I thought I didn't have it, but then everything turned out okay. Do you guys see the dance, the unending dance that is? Right? Mom's right, no, dad's right. You know, like my answer to that koan is probably something like hiding under the bed. Right? In that case, nobody has it. So, this is all about expecting things, right? Starting with an idea in mind, starting with an end in mind. We need goals, right? You can't just float through life. But at the same time, we have to be awake and present and spontaneously with what is. And so, you know, how does the monk who hears that he has it feel? What do we think, right? Oh, the teacher thinks I'm good. Yeah. Right? And by the way, this is exactly what koan study is about too, right? I say to you, like, good, yeah, go on to the next one. And you're like, I got it. I'm awesome. You know, or I'm like, no, work on it some more. Ring, 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 ring. And you're like, oh, I suck. How do we leap free of these dualities that imprison us all the time? Right? They start here. They start in your head. They start as soon as you name a thing something, as soon as you decide who has it and who doesn't. You've already left the path of wisdom. It's okay. You can get right back on. Just notice that. Come back. I don't know about you, but I do it all the time, right? Some of the people in my life are difficult. I know this is probably coming as a shock to you. Maybe it's only me that has that experience, but I suspect that it's not. Right? Some of the people in my life are difficult. And so like do that. Like go there. Imagine one of them, right? Imagine someone in your life that's difficult. And once you have it, right? Notice how much energy is caught up in, well, they definitely don't have it, and here's all the reasons, and I have a right to feel this way, and this is, the funny thing about Zen is it's not saying that if something is difficult, it isn't, right? And it's not saying that if something hurts that you shouldn't move away from it. It's not saying any of that. But what it is saying is the more energy we put into a fixed position, the more we suffer. One of the things I use with difficult people in my own life is I think, I will do for a difficult person who is hard for me to get along with anything that I would also do for a stranger. Right? If I saw someone by the side of the road with a flat tire, I would try to, assuming I felt it was safe, I would try to help them change it. Right? It's just a natural, once we let go of our egos to some degree, the natural response to help is to help others when we have the opportunity to do so. And in the same way, if I can look beyond my personal story and my history with someone, very often I can see the human beings there. And then I can respond. And maybe I have something then to offer. Now, this is very much a do not judge by any standards position, right? Maybe that's not true. That's okay too. Whatever ingredients are the ingredients that are there. So if something's difficult and you can't address it, or you can't deal with it, or you have to move away, or you're not ready to cope, or it's too abusive, then move away. Right? We're not forcing ourselves to do things. But one has it and one doesn't, right? Who is this one that has it or doesn't? Is the one that has it or the one that doesn't the final answer in your reality? Because that leads to an endless cycle of deciding what you're going to do about those who have it and what you're going to do about those who don't. What you're going to do about the situations you like and what you're going to do about the situations you don't. Right? How you're going to respond. And you're always going to be in a stance of resistance to the things you don't want and a stance of clinging to the things you do. So when we hang on to the stuff we want, then we suffer as it slips through our fingers, even though the nature of everything is the same nature, right? So the things we like and enjoy slip through our fingers. That's what they do, right? Ultimately, that's true of our life, right? One has it, one doesn't. Well, eventually all of us don't, right? Eventually we all die. So clinging creates suffering. But resisting creates suffering too. I don't want that, right? There's a big difference between, I don't want that, and I don't want that, right? One is, I am acknowledging that something is suboptimal, right? And that's real, right? Things have forms, and some of the forms are unpleasant or undesirable. But then there's, why does this always happen to me? And that's less helpful. That's worth exploring, Viktor Frankl says, between the stimulus and the response, therein lies our freedom. He wrote that in a concentration camp. So it's worth noting, right? So whatever I'm dealing with probably isn't that bad comparatively, right? So, but at the extremity, often that's where wisdom emerges. So pay attention to that, right? Pay attention to when is it that you think you have it? When is it you think you don't, right? And can you reset? Because when you think you have it, you don't have it. And when you think you don't have it, you're wrong too, right? Because you have it. Like it is original to you, right? You're perfect and complete, you're lacking nothing, you're fine right how you are. So this dance of having and not having, of yes and no, is a dance that just creates clinging and suffering. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. It's okay to feel sad, right? My mother-in-law has this saying. She says, it's okay to have a pity party, but don't make a house there. It's okay to feel sorry for yourself. Just feel it. You feel sorry for yourself? Cool, feel it. That's how you feel. Cool, feel that. It'll dissipate, it'll go away. Don't make a house. Don't make a nest. So there's a comment here. Woman says, tell me, which one has it and which one has not? If you have your Zen eye open at this point, you will know how Master Serio failed. Be that as it may, you're strictly warned against arguing about has and has not. And he has a poem. When they are rolled up, bright and clear is the great emptiness. The great emptiness does not yet come up to our teaching. Why don't you cast away emptiness and everything? Then it is so lucid and perfect that even the wind does not pass through. If the wind doesn't even pass through, how can there be one who has it and one who doesn't?